the scope of the work once repairs and replacements are needed. Brian, you want to?
Let's go to the first type.
Okay. So
one of the biggest things that whenever I have board meetings or I'm making a presentation to even just a homeowner, one of the biggest things that I've always stressed for years is preventative maintenance. You can have the greatest roofing system in the world. It's the same as anything. If you don't take care of it, you got to change the oil in your car. You got to change the filter in your water softener. There's different things you got to do just to make sure that something's running right, and you got to do the preventative maintenance on your roofs. When people let like debris and other items build up on the roofs, it's gonna make that roofing system fail sooner than it should. So I've been on roofing systems that have been 2-3 years old, and they've let the debris build up so bad that the roofing system has failed. We actually just got a bid request today from somebody that had a brand new roof put on, and they're actually having us take a look at it because they didn't do the preventative maintenance, and now the other contractor won't even come back. So it's so important, and it's pennies on the dollar. If you can save your roof for another 5-10 years just by doing preventative maintenance every year, it's one of the things that I can't stress hard enough. Preventative maintenance is without a doubt the best thing you can do to keep and it helps with your budget. I mean, if you don't have to replace a roof, if you can get 5-10 years extra out of your roofing system and you don't have to spend that $100,000-$300,000 on a roof, why not get it for a simple preventative maintenance? Whenever there's a leak, we want to go out there and we actually want to assess the leak from the interior, because that way we're able to go ahead and take a look at the interior and work our way back up on the roof. It's almost like working backwards. So we always set up the appointment with the homeowner so we can work out a time where I can actually get in and see it. The interior inspection usually doesn't take very long, and then we spend most of the time on the roof. But that all involves communication, getting involved with the property manager. That there's different steps like that I've been doing HOAs now for close to 15 years, and Regis has been doing it a long time too. We all know the steps that we need to do to work with different HOAs. So it's a good thing I stress communication with my entire company. So a lot of repairs, when we're doing repairs, we'll have to look at the situation and decide, is this repairable or do we have to replace? So a picture says 1,000 words. So we always take pictures and we provide pictures with our proposals so you can actually see. I mean, most people don't want to get on the roof with us, so they have to take kind of our word for it, but pictures make it much more valid. If you can see that a roof looks bad and we can point out holes in the roof and everything like that, we can explain why it either has to be repaired or replaced. Let's see, replacement kind of goes along with that. Biggest thing with replacement is you want to make sure your installer is actually certified to install the material that's being put on the roof. We're master elite installers with GAF, which only 2% of the roofers in the country are that. We're certified installers with a ton of GAF is, I believe they're the largest roofing manufacturer in the world. Then we're certified with all the other different systems too. There's different systems. If there's a system that aren't certified right now, I guarantee we can get certified because we've been in the business so long that people actually want to work with us. So with getting certified, you can actually get manufacturer warranties to go along with the work. So what that does is that gives you different levels of warranty. Like you can do just a material warranty, or you can do labor material, where literally the manufacturer will take over the warranty 2 years after we've completed the roof. So what that means to you is, I mean, Gleason Roofing is a good sized company, but if you have the largest manufacturer in the world also backing up the labor, that helps out a ton too. So I see questions popping up. Are we supposed to, sorry, kind of a rookie at this guy, so.
So is there also a certification for doing the roof maintenance and replacement?
It really depends on the roofing system. So the question is there a certification for doing the roof maintenance? So what you want to do is if you're going to have a maintenance, so say you have a Versico system, Versico TPO system. You need to have a person that's going to actually be certified in Versico to go up there and actually do that maintenance, or else it could void the warranty. So that's why we're certified with all the manufacturers. Is there another one that
They asked what type of roof is approved for a specific community, which we won't have the answer for, but your management company will have the answer for.
Okay.
So. Oh. Oh, hold on. Uh-oh. Where am I? I'm missing. Oh,
there you go.
yeah.
So tile roofs, one of the biggest misconceptions about tile roofs, people think that the tile is actually your water barrier. That isn't true with tile. Depending on the tile, up to like 10 to 30% of the roof water that actually hits your roof will actually get below the tile. So there's a material below the tile. It's actually called underlayment. The underlayment's your real water barrier. So that's where when you see people like picking up entire tile roofs, then putting down new underlayment, that's what they're doing. The tiles should last like 50, 60 years, but the underlayment, honestly, depending on what's been put up there, is only going to last like some of the Bear Code underlayments, a 30-pound underlayment, and I've seen it last 20 years, but I've also seen it fail after 15 years. So, and it all depends on the installation. If the installer took the time, and even if it's a lesser material, but if they took the time to make sure all the penetrations are done correctly and everything like that, then you're going to get more time out of that underlayment. The next bullet point there is what's the difference between a 1-layer, 2-layer, and synthetic? 1 layer is very straightforward. You just put down 1 layer of underlayment, and you're going to tie all your penetrations and valleys into that 1 layer. 2 layers is my favorite. So you do 2 layers of 40-pound, and they're literally alternating layers. So basically, like you start with a half layer, then you go like this, and you go like, I mean, you just work your way up almost like a stairway, and that makes it where even if 1 layer fails, the second layer is going to catch it. It's an awesome system, and I got to tell you, that's what I would put on my house. Synthetic has its place. I'm not 100% sold on synthetic shed, so I would say the 1 or 2 layer 40-pound is the best one. The next bullet point there is the difference between removing and replacing battens. It really depends on what the condition is of the battens. And honestly, even when you're popping those battens off, if they're run and all, they're going to break. So I've seen other companies where they'll actually put a per charge in for battens, like if they break this many battens, that's what it's going to charge you. I don't really agree with that. I think that if you're going to do a new roofing system, you might as well do a new roofing system with new battens. The next question is, what is burst off and valley metal? Valley metal is pretty straightforward. You're going to put valley metal into the areas where 2 slopes intersect, and that metal is protects the intersection from anything getting below it. And honestly, when we do our valleys, we actually put ice and water below the valleys too, so you have a double barrier there. And valleys are one of your main leak areas, so that's where we want the double barrier. Let's see, the fine print of the warranty. I'm going to go ahead and let Regis address that one.
So when you're comparing, and this is something just for you guys to be aware of, when you got proposals on roofs, there are a lot of things to look at, like, is it one layer? Is it two layers? Are they addressing the battens? Like, is there an extra cost for those battens? Because there is something that companies put in there, there's a lot to a roofing system. And while one company may remove and replace battens, another may charge for the replacement of battens if needed. And so these are things for boards to be aware of. In valleys, are they putting up bird stop, which is what prevents the birds from getting under your tile along the ridge line in the front? Or is that something that's included? Are you removing and replacing the tile? And do they account for replacing the broken tile? Are they going to color match it? Something that a lot of associations, homes in Arizona have to realize is that the exact same color of tile is not always going to be available.
Pretty rare it's available.
And so you have to think about, are you going to be able to hide a new color tile in the back of the building where it's not available? Are you going to re-roof one building in new tile and reuse all the tile off that building on another building? These are things you need to think about, because exact matches of that color of tile are likely not available. And so, and then the fine print on the warranty. So one thing that, you'll see a 10-year warranty on that. Does that include interior leaks? Is that a 2-year no leak warranty? Is that a 2-year labor warranty and a 10-year manufacturer warranty? There's a lot of fine print written into those warranties that you may not really see. You're just seeing, oh, it's a 20-year warranty, but whose warranty is that? And so these are things to think about when you're looking at this. And I know there was a question, Brian, for you on the last one. What preventative maintenance do you recommend?
That really depends on the roofing system, but number one is cleaning. Let's get the roofs cleaned off.
And how often?
That's another one. There's a lot of caveats that go along with that. If there's a ton of trees around, then you're going to have to clean it biannually. If there's not a ton of trees around, then maybe you only have to do it once a year. Is there a lot of pigeons? Is it just different stuff like that? So if there's a lot of trees around and you have a flat roofing system, it's really important to clean off those roofs, because then if you don't, then your drains are going to get clogged. We had a property up in Scottsdale, and they flooded out 4 units, like literally flooded it out because the scuppers were blocked and everything. It was one of those heavy rains, and it actually flooded back into their T-top vents, which were vents for like the microwave and the bathroom fan and stuff like that. So it was a horrible one, and that was all because they didn't clean off the roofs. And but like a tile roofing system, you want to make sure you clean out the valleys. It all depends on the roofing system.
Okay. So we're going to play you this cute little video. This is actually what it looks like. Just kind of a sample of when they do a tile roof.
That's a bare bones roof right there. That would be your underlayment being installed on the roof. And then literally there's the layer of tile. And it's a pretty straightforward system. And actually I got a buddy of mine that does AI, so he put that together for us. And it just gives a breakdown. It's a pretty straightforward system as far as or straightforward demonstration on how it works. There's more steps, obviously, like the tile battens, the flashing, all that stuff. So,
but just kind of a simple thought. There are quite a few different types of tile.
Yeah, like we have everyone's used to concrete tile, and actually probably everyone's used to clay tile too. Those are the two most common kind. There is some slate out here. Slate's pretty interesting to work with. We don't get a lot of slate, so we can work on it. It's definitely not a fun product to work on. We actually have different metal tile that we're actually certified to do, and it's a very pretty roof, and it's a steel tile, so it actually looks really nice. And it's with those types of roof, what's nice about those is the tile actually is your water barrier. So technically, the United States and Canada require an underlayment, but other parts of the country, if you put this steel tile on, you're not even required to put an underlayment down because it's your true water barrier on top of the roof. And then the last one would be solar. We actually got some really exciting news recently. We are going to be, we're going to be the only certified Tesla installers for a roofing system, for roofing shingles. So that's going to be, we're in the process right now getting certified, and it's they chose us, and it's pretty darn exciting. So that's going to be a big push in the market down here too.
So this one is actually, let's see, I can get it back to the beginning. So if you've ever thought about how much one square of tile weighs.
A square is 10 feet by 10 feet, 100 square feet.
Yes, 100 square feet of tile. This video kind of, and this slide tells you how much that
Ron
is.
has a tile roof. Ron wanted to see a stack of one roofing square of tile as compared to other objects that are similar in weight, like a grand piano and a smart car. Here you go, Ron.
So just to give you an idea for any of you who have tile roofs, they are very heavy. So for those of you who have tile on your roofs, when you have slipped tile, when you have tile hanging off, when you have tile that's displaced, that's why it's such a big concern, and it's so important to make sure that you are having that tile reset, because tile is very heavy and tile can actually hurt people, and it obviously weighs a lot. So we just wanted to kind of give you a little demonstration.
You don't want your roofing system to fail, and I've seen it actually happen, where the tile roof rotted out so bad that the tile actually caved into a living room. So it was quite amazing, because honestly, it was somebody, it was not a homeowner that lived there, it's a nice way to say it, and they didn't care about it. So they let this leak go on for, I think, at least a couple of years, and it rotted out everything. So the tile literally caved through into their living room.
But yeah, this is just kind of to give you an idea of how much that tile on your roof really weighs. So. On to shingle. So shingle roofs are interesting. Knowing the slope on the roof, what your warranty is on your shingles, because they do vary. When you go to work on shingles, knowing how many layers, because that is important. And then talking about the valleys and the dead valleys.
One of the biggest things about shingles is you want to have a same deal. You got to have a certified installer, or else you can avoid out your manufacturer warranty. So if you bought with a shingle warranty, what they call them now, they used to call them 15-year warranties or 30-year warranties. Now they call it limited lifetime. I still can't say it's a lifetime shingle. I just can't bring myself to do it, because the shingles aren't going to last a lifetime. What happens after a while is the shingles get prorated, and yeah, they'll say that it'll go up to like 40 years, but it's going to be, by the time it gets to 40 years, it's going to be prorated down to almost nothing. So, what I stress honestly is there's only certain manufacturers that I will sell. Well, let me put it this way. There are certain manufacturers I won't sell. I like a lot of the big ones, you know, Owens Corning, Certainty, GAF, those are good roofs. I'm not gonna say the ones I don't like, but if you were, anyway, I just I don't install those roofs because they haven't held up in Arizona temperatures. As far as the layers, we're only allowed to put 2 layers of shingles, and it honestly, that's another thing that I know you guys have heard me say it, but it really depends on the roofing system. If I get up on a roof, and I'm not a huge fan of doing a recover, which means putting a layer over the top of the original layer, but sometimes budgetary concerns require it. But if I get up on a roof and I can feel a bunch of bad plywood underneath the existing shingles and everything like that, I'm going to tell you it's probably better to tear it off. So that way we can actually address the rod and plywood that's down below. And as far as dead valleys they're the nemesis of any roofer out there. And if you see that picture in the middle, water literally sits there. It's not supposed to. And it's architecturally designed to actually have a slope to it. But what'll eventually happen is you can see at the very end, there's debris built up at the end. So now water's sitting on this roof. And it's a very poor plan. It's kind of funny when I walk up to a house and I'm going to do a leak repair. If I see dead valleys on both sides of the entryway, I'm like 99% sure when they show me where the leak is, it's going to be in one of those dead valleys. Annual inspections on shingles are still important. You want to make sure you get your valleys cleaned out. Same deal. You don't want water. When the valleys are clogged and shingles, tile, metal, anything like that, what it'll do, so the valleys are made for water to run vertically off the roof. So when the valleys are clogged, the water bumps up and it goes sideways. And what that happens is it starts wearing out the material below the valley. And that's where you end up getting leaks out. And it will take time, but it'll eventually leak. And also you want to see if, especially with shingles, because shingles are your water barrier too. So like tile's a water shedder, shingles are a water barrier. If you're missing shingles, what'll happen eventually is the underlayment below the shingles will get worn away because underlayment below shingles is not the same quality as below a tile. So it will wear away sooner and then you're going to get a leak. So like if you look at that middle picture with that brown shingle right there, if there's a missing shingle right there, there's no one would be able to see it because it's kind of a lower slope roof without getting up on the roof. So that's why an inspection is important.
All right, we are going to go on to foam and coating.
A foam system is a great system. It took me, the best thing about foam is it's seamless. So it actually gets sprayed on. It's an exothermic system, which means that it literally builds itself up after you spray it on. And it's a very good system for Arizona. There's different parts of the country I wouldn't put foam on. But it's still, foam is probably, as far as preventative maintenance, foam roofs without a doubt are probably your #1 for wanting to have preventative maintenance done. Because as you can see with that middle picture right there, so with a foam roof, the foam roof is your water barrier, and then the white coating that's on top, that's your UV protectant. So that UV protectant actually protects the foam from getting worn away by the sun. Because once UV hits or ultraviolet hits foam, it literally creates the cells to decompose and it'll turn into a powder. It won't happen overnight, but obviously it will start wearing away and then you break the system apart. So what you got to do is you have to coat these systems every, 5-10 years, depends on how big a coating you put on originally. But foam and coating roofs, if you have a foam roof, you got to do the preventative maintenance. It's just so important. Because you can have a small crack that once the foam gets corrupted, you end up having to take out 100 square feet of foam. But if it's addressed soon, you can actually address it right there in that small area. Foam and coating, why do I have bubbles and blisters? The bubbles and blisters are actually, what that is that's moisture that's trapped between, so foam is put on in different layers. So some systems now you're actually able to put down an inch at a time, but most systems that are out there, you're only able to put down half an inch, and then you go back with another half inch and another half inch. And if you get any moisture in between those systems, foam is very intolerant to moisture while it's being installed. So it'll sit, and then the next thing you know, like, well, not the next thing you know, but it's 6 months, 9 months later, it'll literally create a bubble inside that foam, and it'll create that blister, and the blister will break open, and then water can penetrate between the layers. As far as how long this coating lasts, it all depends on how much coating is installed. There's literally 5, 10, 15, 20-year roofs that you can put on out there. And it goes, that would depend. You want to find out how you want to like have the budget concerns with that. I generally do a 10-year coating, which is 3 gallons per square. Because when you do a 5-year coating, so if you do a 5-year coating, then you got to come back in 5 years. Here's what I usually present to people. I'll say, all right, so here's your 10-year coating. So say your 10-year coating is $5,000. And here's your 5-year coating. It's $3,500. All right. So then you go, okay, well, 5 years, in 5 years now, I'm going to spend another $3,500. That's $2,000 extra that you spent when you could have got that out of a 10-year coating originally. I'll do the 5-year coatings, but I always want to stress that it's definitely more cost effective to do a 10-year coating.
So this third picture, that is actually foam.
That's foam.
Correct?
Yep.
And then the white on top is the coating.
Yep.
So this is what it looks like when you actually put new foam and tear off a roof.
Yep.
So this is actually when you guys tear off your roofs, what happens when they take it off and actually put the foam and do the whole tear off in a new roof on a flat roof. This is actually from beginning to end. In case you guys don't actually get up on the roof and see it, this is beginning to end on that process. So this is, and I will play you another little video, a different type of composite that you probably don't see very much.
That was a Da Vinci roof. So we're one of the only installers in Arizona that'll even do Da Vinci. Or I should say are allowed to do Da Vinci and have the warranty put in place. We've done huge projects. That picture down below, that's actually a custom home that we did. It turned out beautiful in the end. It was quite the project. That guy spent a lot of money on that roof. And but we've done entire resorts. We've done actually, we did La Barrage up in Sedona. I don't know if you guys have ever been up there, but that was a good one. It's a beautiful roof, and it's what it is. It's a good solution. If say you have a shake roof right now, which is basically a wood shingle, and your insurance company says, all right, you got to get rid of the shake because it's too much of a fire hazard. That's generally when we put on a Da Vinci roof, because the Da Vinci still looks a lot like shake. You still stay with the same architectural guidelines, and it doesn't have it's a Class A fire rating too. So we're able to make a Class A on it with the right underlayment and everything like that.
There was a question of what is elastomeric coating?
Elastomeric coating is the coating that's installed on top of foam roofs. That's what I was talking about. That's the coating that protects the foam from the UV rays. So foam is an awesome roof, but it does have to be protected from the sun. So that's where you have to, you'll either do a 5-year roof, 10-year roof, 15-year roof. It depends on how many layers of coating you're going to put up there, but that's what elastomeric coating is. It's protection for your foam roof. Well, they actually use it on different flat roofs too, but it's most common on foam roofs.
So that was the white they saw
That's
in
the
that
white
last
coating. Yeah.
in picture. That is elastomeric coating. So what is,
Modified Bendham's it's a good roof. It's preferably I prefer foam over it. The only thing I don't like putting modified Bendham over a livable space. I usually use it on patios and different stuff like that. It is a good system, but it does have seams, and it's a solution for when I first started roofing. I actually did something called torch, and you literally get up on the roof with a big blowtorch. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. You get up on the roof with a big blowtorch and literally melt the roofing material to a piece of fiberglass. And a lot of insurance finally took away. They don't want you doing the torch on the roof anymore for obvious reasons. So the new modified Bendham is usually it's either cold process or peel and stick. And that's what you see right there is literally you pull off the back of the modified Bendham and it's got an adhesive on the back and you stick it right to the roof.
but you do still see some of these roofs.
Oh yeah.
All right. Other roofing concerns.
Parapet walls are a big one. Parapet walls are where your stucco ties into the roofing system. And here's the thing is it depends on how the parapet wall is handled. Sometimes the parapet wall is handled like part of the roofing system and then part of it, then other times it's handled literally as a stucco system. So it really depends on how it was installed. Coping metal. Coping metal can be metal that's installed on top of parapet walls. The only thing that's bad about coping metal is it has a lot of uplift, and if it's not secured right, it'll literally blow off. Gutters, you got to keep your gutters clear. Like you can see that one picture in the middle right there. That's literally a cactus growing out of a gutter. That thing's been growing for a while.
Ah.
Oh.
I did it again.
Chimney caps will blow off and bad plywood. Sorry guys, just 1 minute.
I gotta stop clicking buttons. There. Are we?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I'm going to beat a horse to death, but this one's all about preventative maintenance. Once again, preventative maintenance is just huge, guys. It'll. One thing, there's so many pluses to it. Like you can extend the life of the roofing system. You can do it for budget systems. You can figure out like how far your roof really is going to last. And it's just an important thing. So, but I think I pretty much covered that before.
I have a question. What are some things that you see? I know a lot of the boards on the call right now are condo associations or maybe clubhouses. What's the most common mistake you see like HOAs making when it comes to preventative maintenance? Is it just not scheduling it enough, like frequently enough, or is it just that maybe
They
they're doing
don't.
the wrong thing?
I guarantee. So here's literally what I'm not saying anything negative, but here's what will generally happen. So say we install a new roofing system and say it's a $10,000 roofing system. And I say, all right, you're going to have me come out for $750 to clean off the tree, clean off the leaves once a year, once every 2 years, something like that. They don't include that in their budget and it's out of sight, out of mind. So at that point right there, there's no forethought in it. So that's probably the biggest thing that I can say that is a problem with the HOAs. They'll have, asphalt to do or painting to do. And the fact that they can't see the roof and the roof isn't being inspected, they have no idea how much debris is up there, what's really going on. So like when we take over a new property and they say, we'd like you to do a preventative maintenance, they'll say, give us a 5-year plan, give us a 3-year plan, anything like that. What I always tell them is like, let's get the first year done. We'll go out there and we'll get the first year done. And then honestly, because if they haven't done preventative maintenance in 5-10 years, the first one's going to be the worst. So then after that, when we come back in 6 months or a year, we can see how bad it really is when you actually have a plan in place. You have a baseline, you have something to set your standard by. Like if you go out the first time and there's 1,000 broken tile, but it's not going to be that bad the second time. So there's no way to like say like, all right, the next time around there's only going to be 10. It's what you want to do is you want to set the baseline, or you want to get the first one done, and then you set the baseline with the second one. I know that's probably a weird way to explain it, but they don't plan ahead with the preventative maintenance, and it helps out so much with money, so much. Is that good?
Yeah, no, that's great. Just like, I think you mentioned, since it's out of sight, out of mind, and that's
Right.
something that, management, we can it's easy for us to forget too, because if we're walking, street level in all of these communities, we have to remember to kind of look up sometimes. So I think that's a good reminder.
Well, and the problem is you guys have a lot of flat roofs, you can look up, but you don't know what's going on up there. It's different with a tile roof and you go, hey, there's some broken tile right there. But when it's a flat roof and you can't see it, you really got to have somebody take a look. So, and we turn in photo reports with all of our stuff too. So that makes a huge difference too. So you can actually see how bad it really was and is. So you can kind of plan for the future with that.
All right, on to solar. There are residential and solar installations. As of the third quarter in 2022, Arizona was 5th in solar installations nationwide. 10% of the state's state's electricity is from solar. Prices have fallen 52% over the last 10 years. Intel, Apple, and PayPal have all gone solar in Arizona. And there are incentive databases in Arizona that provide incentives to Arizona as well as other US states to get people on board with going solar. There are many options available. Everyone thinks of the rooftop mounted solar, but there are ground mounts, which are pictured down here, where you can put them on the ground and mount the solar. Carports, which many of you see in commercial installations. Many people have started mounting them on ramadas, gazebos, pergolas, because roofing installations are not always the most desirable mounting. So there are different installations. In associations, one of the biggest that you see are solar lights. And the biggest thing for associations with solar lights is, you have to run lights and electricity sometimes to places where it's not the most conducive. So we see a lot of solar lights on monuments where it's not always the easiest to get electricity to monuments where people are putting up new monuments. There are the large solar lights now for path lighting, for parks. there are street lights, and there are a lot of places that have started to put in street lights, as well as many cities, not necessarily in Arizona. And then you have the regular bollards. So solar lights are an option. Where do you need them? What purpose? You need to think about how many lumens you're looking at though. And so a lot of times people think they can just go to Home Depot or Amazon, but that's not necessarily going to get you the information for how much light you need. And then who's purchasing and installing them on the property. But solar lights are more, you know, available to HOAs. And so not necessarily just residential and commercial installations, but there is a bigger push for like these installations, and it is something to think about. As far as the average cost for solar for a 3,400 square foot house.
That'd be something we just have to take a look at, because we need to see where what slopes are facing. I mean, it all depends on what, there's not like a general rule for it, because you want to make sure that the slopes are facing towards the sun and all that kind of stuff. So we'd be happy to take a look at it for you.
Yeah.
For some of those lighting options, do you guys, when you're kind of evaluating that for us, do you recommend certain, you know, styles and types based on what you guys think the lighting requirement would be for a certain area? Like, do you guys help us out kind of like determining the lumens and stuff, and like what type of solar lighting you think would fit for a certain area in a community?
Absolutely.
Yes. And that's the kind of thing you look at is, you know, how big of an area are you trying to light? You know, where are you trying to light? How, you know, is it just one light? Are they multiple lights? That kind of thing, because then we can get you options. Is there a certain look that you're going for? What's the aesthetic of the area? And then we can get you the options based on that information.
What we're doing on a lot of businesses right now, and it's actually would be I think a great option for HOAs is parking structures. We have a lot of businesses that are actually putting solar on their park, they're literally building a solar like pergola or cantilever
Carports.
that have solar as the roofing system, and it's a very you'll see it sometimes at Safeways. I've seen it in a couple of shells. We've done it for smaller office complexes and stuff like that, and it's a great. You literally can build the parking structure around where the sun's going to be. So it's a good process, and I think it'd be great for HOAs. So we're just honestly we're focusing probably on businesses right now, but that's something you guys definitely want to think about.
And yeah, I mean, I understand solar can be stolen. There are some new solar structures and easier way to hide solar panels and solar lighting, so they're not as obvious. I don't know what area you're in. But yeah, there are different solar panels and different solar ways to install them, so they're not as easy to damage or to vandalize or to take. So they're not necessarily just ground mounted. But yeah, there have been a lot of advances to solar. Maintenance and preventative maintenance. So we're going to go into maintaining and preventing failure when it is preventable, along with the roofs, what you can see and what you cannot see, life safety concerns that must be addressed, structural concerns, environmental factors, managing homeowner expectations with your budget, managing communications, and some simple solutions for everyday problems. So just kind of a general idea, preventative maintenance, don't start today by doing yesterday's work. So you always want to develop a maintenance strategy. There's preventative maintenance and there's corrective maintenance. So you always want to start with preventative maintenance. So you want to do periodic, predictive, and planned maintenance rather than running your amenities to failure or maybe planning for unplanned failures. And so kind of what we're trying to get you in the direction of is the same thing we were talking about with the roofs, is thinking of all of your amenities and planning for servicing, for replacement, coming up with a plan for inspections, knowing what the lifetime and life expectancy of these items are. And then knowing when to have refurbishment done if possible, or having work done on these items to try and do something to prevent failure when you're able to. So periodic inspections and monitoring. Motorized equipment should have maintenance contracts. If you have boilers, if you have chillers, if you have an HVAC, you have a lift station, elevators, anything mechanical in your community, you should have a maintenance contract for. You should have regular inspections. I know that your management company does regular inspections of any of your amenities, your tot lots, your basketball courts, clubhouses. Annual inspections are required on your backflow prevention devices, your elevators, your fire extinguishers, your fire risers. That's something the city mandates. But that's something you should always have planned for. That should always be in your budget. You should always have that expectation. And reserve studies, I know they're recommended, they're not mandated in Arizona. And a lot of them are they can be either as vague or specific as boards would like, but that is how you fund your reserves. That's how you plan your replacements, making sure you're accounting for every item, whether you can see it or you can't see it, is very important in that reserve study. So there's items that you can prevent failure on. How many sprinklers hit walls? And yes, over the years, many communities have gotten good at moving them away, but they still hit pool fences. They still hit sidewalks. They still break and hit buildings, and light fixtures. Tree roots, unfortunately, no one as a board member had any control of where the original trees in the community were planted. And no one really wants to be the person to cut them down. But there are root barriers that can go in, and there are ways to try and correct that before they break your walls, before they break your sidewalks. You do have control of how often you paint your surfaces. And in Arizona, we are not the best at making sure we keep up on painting, but it does greatly shorten the life expectancy of wood, of stucco, of iron. And so the longer it takes you to get on a good maintenance schedule of painting, the shorter the life expectancy is, especially of wood. in Arizona, but it deteriorates your pool fences faster, your gates, everything when you don't paint. And then the lack of maintenance on your mechanical equipment. You know, we don't service our pool pumps. We don't always check and service, maybe based on, you know, the manufacturer's recommendations for elevators or HVAC equipment, and make sure everything goes through all of that. That does shorten the useful life of all those items. So what you can see versus what you can see. You know, you see the concrete, you see the asphalt, you see your block walls in your communities. You can see the iron, you can see the stucco. You can't see the parapet walls. They're up on your roofs. Unfortunately, you can't see your electric or your electrical panels unless you're out there opening those panels and those boxes and checking those fuses. And I think that's something a lot of communities overlook, is having those inspected. None of us can see the plumbing, unfortunately. But having, you know, the plumbing lines inspected, having them cleaned out, having jetting done, especially as communities start to age, and making sure those lines stay clean, because we don't know who is putting what down your sewer lines or your plumbing lines. And your roofs. You know, no one goes up and checks the roofs, unfortunately. We don't, as association board members or as homeowners, no one really goes up and checks the roofs. Life safety concerns. For any of you who met me in my previous role, this was something that became a larger deal, especially with your insurance companies. And a lot of insurance companies are still going to be starting to rate your insurance or pull your insurance based on some of these. And these are still going to be contentious just because of the amount of claims that come in from them. And so these are things to start thinking about and looking at, and should be evaluated continuously. Because they protect you, they protect your visitors, and they protect your property. Uneven surfaces, concrete, know who owns your streets. And even sometimes if the city owns your streets, know where that boundary is. You know, does it end at the sidewalk? Do the homeowners own the sidewalk? Could you still possibly be held responsible for that sidewalk? And where does that responsibility end? Uneven landscaped areas. Do you have a level change between your sidewalk and your granite, or your sidewalk and your grass? Does your grass have holes in it? Do you have loose handrails? Do you have missing handrails? Do you have sharp or uneven surfaces? You know, if you grab a handrail, is it gonna cut somebody? Is the paint coming off? Is it rusted? On your pool fences, on any metal surfaces? Are your gates always self-closing? Do you have any umbrellas or chairs or tables that aren't secured, that we get some really high winds in Arizona? Could they blow over or blow into someone in a windstorm? And then, do you have water intrusion? Does the water go into somebody's unit from outside to inside? Anywhere, you know, not just, you know, but even in single family homes, it happens, you know, where, you know, your drainage areas may fill up and come in. And if you do, have you figured out how? And here's some examples for you. So you've got the sidewalks. You've got even just the little alligator, parking lot. You've got a cute little pool area with the umbrella, but could that blow over? And is it possible? And yes, these are all examples of things that have happened, just so you know. And then you've got water stains and water intrusion, and it's kind of in the middle of the ceiling. And where did it come from? Is it a roof leak? Is it a plumbing leak? Is it a sprinkler leak? Do you know? Is somebody figuring it out? It's a good idea to have it figured out. And then some examples. So here's kind of a stairwell, and you can see over here, I was talking about, the paint's kind of rusted away and somebody could scrape their hand walking up there. The surface has started to deteriorate, so it's a little slick. And so, the stairs are starting to look like they're cracking a little bit, but rather than let's tear it all down and start over, which is, probably one of the bids you would get, what you do is you partner with some good companies who provide products. And in this case, there was a really good product where it sealed up, you sand it down, you seal it all up, and it waterproofs. It provides a really good slip-proof surface here. And you have a solution that now extends the life of all your metal components, all your concrete components, and you have something safe and usable for your residents. So sometimes it's just coming up with a creative solution for, your residents and finding the right solution. When it comes to structural concerns, some of them, again, are not going to be, it's problems that you inherited. So, what was the building code at the time it was built? We sometimes know the answer to that. Was it inspected and built to code? Can't answer that. Has the code changed since? In many cases, it may have. And unless unless you're going to be, rebuilding it, we don't always have to bring it to current code. That's not always the case. Now, has drainage and runoff in the area changed? That's probably a big yes. We've all seen how much building is going on, and how many changes have gone on in all of our areas. Has there been regular upkeep and inspections? Unless you know the history for the last however many years, we aren't going to be able to answer that. A lot of times there's been a loss of maintenance records or warranties. A big one is a lot of your communities are seeing an increased usage in amenities. There's larger families. There's more guests. There's a larger group of renters, or their rental properties now, instead of, just 2 or 3 homeowners living in a home. And so your amenities are seeing a lot larger usage than what they used to see when they were built. And you have to now account for that. There's changes in use to common areas. What used to just be a green belt, you now have a tennis court, a basketball court, you've installed a tot lot, you have, dog parks. And so you have to account for that. And then, like we were talking about, your risk management requirements are being enforced by your insurance companies. And so all of these are now being put on you as board members, and you are now having to account for that. And so, is it a structural issue? And where did it come from? And some of the biggest ones that you're seeing right now, anybody see window leaks? And is it a building envelope? Is it the actual windows? Did they forget to put paper back here behind the building? Is it all of the above? I know there's a lot of stem walls cracking, which is just a lot of earth movement. Block walls and view fences in general are moving and cracking. And then you have the lovely sprinkler issues we were talking about, where you're seeing, you know, oh, I'm sorry. Here you go. Here's what we're talking about. So here's your walls. And here's the windows I was talking about. The stem walls, where you're starting to see some cracks along the bottom. And then here is the sprinklers, where it is eating away the buildings at the bottom. So this is a lot of what we're seeing in a community associations. Fencing failures, a lot of walls, and this one right here is actually the design that came from the National Concrete Masonry Association. What we're seeing a lot of is there's supposed to be a drain down here behind your block walls that I'm sure a lot of you have not found. We have not found them. This design over here is what we prefer to see, and we do not see on a lot of block and view fences that has the drainage block down here. But we do see a lot of these over here, which is where you will see the footing coming up, where it has just eroded. And then the cracks that form either from weak footings, from the foundation, you'll see tree roots. You can see the water coming through on the other side over here on the right side of this photo. And a lot of that is the grade on one side of the wall is higher than the grade on the other side of the wall. Some of the other things that you guys are going to see is the electrical panels. A lot of insurance companies are requiring you to confirm what type of electrical panels are in your units. The one that's pictured here, the stab block, if you have those, most insurance companies won't insure you anymore. Balcony failures are one of the bigger items. This picture actually is of a balcony failure that happened back east. Right now, California and Florida mandate the balcony inspections. At some point, we will probably see that start to show up in other states. You can see this tot lot where the rubber has eaten away. You know, a lot of these are preventable, especially the balconies. For any of you that have those, balcony inspections go up there with roofing inspections. And I know they're not the easiest to get access to, but they go hand in hand with, you know, what we're going to talk about with, you know, could it have been prevented? You know, is water getting down through the surface? What's it cost now to go in and inspect those and start making repairs versus what's it going to cost in 5 years? What is your insurance company going to require you to do? Do you know if your insurance company is requiring you to do any repairs at this point? Is it causing more damage? If you have water getting in through a balcony, not only is it damaging your balcony, is it causing structural issues in through your building, in through your walls? And who is responsible for repairs? I'm not going to be able to answer that, but you should know the answer to that. And you should be able to clarify that. And you should clarify that before you have to start going in and charging either homeowners or before you have to start charging assessments for the association to make these repairs. When you need to make these type of repairs, use the right type of professionals. If you need a structural engineer to do an evaluation of your balconies, to look at stairwells, if it's load bearing, then hire a structural engineer. Don't just hire a general contractor or handyman to go out and look at that. Make sure you're using a licensed, bonded, and insured contractor that's qualified to meet the scope of that project. And spend the money to make sure the repair meets the requirement when needed. In other words, if you need to pull a permit, then get one. If it's a structural issue or there's a question if you need to do that, then ask those questions. Don't wait and find out you did need one until after the fact. You know, do your homework and make sure that it's done right instead of going and trying to make structural repairs with a handyman, because that will cost you more money in the long run. Don't put off repairs or try and put off these repairs if you don't have the money to do it. Work with your attorney, work with your management company, and try and find a solution. And don't delay preventative maintenance, because that is what's going to lead to these costs piling up in the future. Just some communication tips, and it is a two-way street. It starts with a clear scope of work. So when you reach out to your vendors to start these projects, is there a specific product you want to use? Or find out if there's a specific product you want to use. You know, if it's going to be a roofing project and you find out there's a certain roofing material you want to use, then even if you need to go back and re-clarify the scope as you go, make sure it's clear. If there's an engineer scope of work, make sure that's included. Make sure there's a map included. Make sure there's a due date. Make sure they know not only when you want proposals, but when you're going to be awarding it, because material costs can change. And you don't want the due date for your proposal to be one date, but you're not planning to vote for 6 months. So that you're clear with your contractors, you're clear with, you know, an engineer, you're clear with everyone that you're working with. At the same time, make sure you're clear with your homeowners. Do they know you're looking at this project? Do they know if there's a possible assessment associated with this project? Do they know if it's going to affect the amenities or their homes? You know, will there be noise? Will there be closures? Will it require access? make sure you communicate with them up front. Who's going to be providing notification? Plan ahead to interview contractors, especially on your larger projects.
When you're doing, I want to throw something in for the
Yeah.
communication. It's, and I know I'm looking at it from the contractor side, but it's great when I go into a project. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be concrete, framing, roofing, anything like that. It's great when we go in and we know the level of expectation. Like, hey, Brian, we want to go ahead and replace this section of concrete. Or, yes, we're going to give you our professional opinion, but we don't want to have like where they'll say, okay, we want to replace all the concrete in the property. And then we turn in a bid, we go out there and measure it and do all this scope for it and everything. And they're like, well, we only want this one section. It's just, you're going to develop a better rapport with your contractor if you have a realistic, not even realistic, like an open level of expectation. Like, we would love to replace this roof right here, but we don't know if we can afford it. We're looking at replacing the entire property, but we're not sure if we just need to do repairs. I mean, any sort of scope like that, if you're doing balconies, stairs, anything like that, as long as we know, like, we want to work with you. We don't want to have to, I'll be 100% honest, I don't want to try to sell it. If we know that, like, if we know what you're looking for, let us go out there and like find a solution. And that, it just helps out a ton. The communication, I stress it everywhere. I stress it in our company. I even stress it at home, the whole 9 yards. Let us know what you want and what we can do to help. It's huge. So anyway, sorry, that was the contractor side, but that I had to stress that.
No, that is exactly it. On the flip side, when you do award a contract, many times this is the part where I think boards, and don't listen to the contractor side right now, because this is for the boards. On the larger contracts, make sure your attorney reviews your contract. Make sure you discuss with your contractor what payment terms are. Make sure you discuss how you want to handle change orders. Don't wait until you're in the middle of a project and it's going to hold up your project because there may be change orders. You know, plan ahead. Who's going to be the contact? What is there an anticipation of change
Right.
orders?
Ask the contractor that. Say, do you see any change? Do you see anything unforeseen that we might have to plan ahead for? Simple example, like I always tell people, one of the only things I try to change order for on a roof is the wood. We just can't see the plywood, the deck until we get the roof off. If we dig out a sidewalk, we don't know if there's possibly tree roots and stuff below it. I mean, there's just different stuff like that. The unforeseen is something that, while it is unforeseen, if the contractor's been around for a while, they'll be able to tell you, hey, well, this might be one of them. And it's the contractor's responsibility to tell you before they send in a change order to you, by the way. So you're supposed to give those approvals.
Yes. But it's good to have a process of how you want to handle those. So you don't get stuck in the middle of a project waiting for a board meeting that's a month out. You know, so that you do know it is a possibility. How are we going to handle that? Who's going to complete the final walk? Who's going to give the final sign off? How are you going to maintain the warranty and issue the final payment? How are you going to communicate to your homeowners about the project? Are there any maintenance requirements, like preventative maintenance after it's done, and tracking the life of the warranty on the work once it's done? So making sure that you think about those steps as you go through projects. Simple ones, maybe all those steps aren't needed, but large scale ones, just thinking through all the steps to a project. Simple solutions, whether it's the HOA's responsibility or the homeowners. A few simple steps can prevent water, fire, deterioration. Some of these are just little things to put in your newsletter. Some of them are just things you can do at home. Clean your roofs. I think we've said that about 10 times tonight, but especially for those of you who have roof drains, and we didn't really touch on roof drains too much, but if you have roof drains, you need to clean your roof drains. Change out your hoses, and this is a big one to remind your homeowners of. You need steel braided hoses at any angle stops. Make sure when you do it, you check for leaks. If you have community restrooms, if you have clubhouses in your individual residence, it's a good idea. Just go through and do it. Inspect your water heaters. A lot of people don't do it until their water heater goes. But making sure you go through every once in a while and check your water heater. Changing out your air filters and servicing your HVAC units. Again, you have clubhouses, it should be in your budget. It should be on your calendar. Dryer vents. Remind your homeowners, do it yourself. That is one of the biggest fire prevention things you can do. And a lot of us don't have our electrical panels inspected, but it is one of the aging infrastructures, and it is a good practice. If you start seeing your lights flicker, if you have an outlet that stops working, it's a good idea to check your breakers. It's a good idea to have someone check it. And if your insurance company hasn't required you to do it yet, they probably will soon. So, just to wrap it all up, roofing starts at the top. It includes many different styles, many different types of maintenance, and the areas it encompasses. Solar has become a large part in Arizona living. It's offered in many facets. It's not only residential, commercial, multifamily. Maintenance and preventative maintenance are imperative to preventing failure in your amenities. Make sure you evaluate, repair, and replace life safety concerns. You're always looking at your infrastructure and your amenities. Make sure you use experts, manufacturers, contractors, engineers, anyone, your HOA management company, your attorneys, anyone available to you when you complete your projects, and communicate effectively. And use your basic maintenance, and simple solutions will prevent everyday problems. Thank you guys for your time tonight. Are there any questions?
I have one. What's the number one mistake you see when there's like an emergency roof leak? What are we not doing most often that you see?
What are you not doing?
Yeah, like what do you guys, what's like the one tip you would say, like in an emergency leak situation? I know people call in and they want you to come get on their roof, like as it's raining and like all of that. So what would be your like tip for an emergency leak situation?
You want to control where the water's flowing. I know that that's not the solution, but say the leak's in the middle of your living room and it's starting to create a big bubble in your paint, take a ballpoint pen or a steak knife or something and poke a little hole in it. That way you can let the water out, because if you don't let the water out, it'll eventually pull all your drywall in. And I know it doesn't fix the roof leak, but at least you can put a bucket directly below that one area and you're controlling where the water goes. As far as getting up on the roof, it really just depends on, I'm not going to send me or the guys out if there's lightning going on. There's just different times. If it's super windy, I'm not going to put anyone in danger. If it's a simple rain, yeah, we go out all the time. So I've said it like 1,000 times, it just depends on the situation. So that, as weird as it sounds, the paint bubble thing, that's actually a big deal. So that actually helps to save some ceilings and stuff like that. So anything else, guys?
Yeah, I got a question about solar. How can a solar panel can be introduced in a condo unit?
That goes on the CCNR, right? Or I'll let you answer that one.
So there are some condo associations going solar. And there is actually a group that's promoting going solar. It is possible for condo associations, depending, to go solar. But it is something you have to look into. Most of the associations we've seen go solar that in my research were master metered, meaning the HOA was paying the electricity. So it was easier for them to hook into one electrical feed because they were all hooked into, you know, the HOA was paying the electric. But if the association, you know, had interest in looking at going solar, you know, it is possible. And I have seen, like I said, there are associations that are starting to go solar. So it would have to, the request would have to come from the board. And if the board wanted us to come out and start looking at it, it is something we could come out and look
Absolutely.
into.
That all goes with communication, guys. So communication and preventative maintenance, those are my two ones. So if the board communicates with us what they're shooting for, we'll come out and take a look and see if it's a possibility.
Yeah, it may be difficult for individual unit. You know, if you are talking about like public lighting, it may be easier.
Again, if the board's interested and the community's interested, we can come out and look at it and see what it would take.
Okay. Sounds good.
Anything else, guys?
And yes, there are tax incentives for solar. If you look at that Desire website, DSIRE, they put all the tax incentives. If you find Arizona, they put them all up there for you.
All right, any other questions, guys? Thank you all for those of you that stuck it out to the end. Yeah, no, it's all important. I was excited for this class because, you know, I know for myself in a single family home, I don't know anything about my own roof. So I thought it was useful for whether you're a condo or single family home, or we have managers that manage office plazas as well. So, you know, every one of our structures needs it. So thank you so much for everyone that attended. Thank you, Regis and Brian, for teaching us. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. They have their info up on the screen as well. And then if any of you are interested in having your manager get with them to kind of come out and see, you know, what type of solar options or roofing, please get with your manager and let them know that you attended the training and want to hear more from Regis and Brian.
Perfect. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
You will send us a PDF file, right, for this today meeting.
Are you okay with that, Regis?
Yes, I'll send it to you.
Yes, we will make that available.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.